Welcome to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. I am your host, Monique T. Marshall, and this week we're talking tech in Africa. And I've invited a great friend of mine who has been very instrumental in my own entrepreneurial journey, Mr. Richard Brandt, the founder and CEO of Codetrain, which is the first technology accelerator in Ghana to train young people to build apps and software. Codetrain's holistic approach connects its students to job and mentorship opportunities, in addition to providing the practical skills needed to build a career in web and mobile application development, design, and online marketing. So Richard and I first met in 2015, and since I've met him and we've grown in our entrepreneurial journey, I've always known him to be very passionate about tech and entrepreneurship in Africa. I think what he's doing with Codetrain is not only inspirational, but vital, because nearly half of the university graduates in sub-Saharan Africa are unable to land jobs. The proliferation of smartphones, high-speed internet, and the digitization of our economy means that Africa will need a talent base that will possess the needed skills to support this infrastructure. So in order for there to be a continuous development in the years to come, Africa must bridge the skills gap and provide employment opportunities for their youth. This is the problem that Richard seeks to address with Codetrain. I really wanted Richard to be on the show to share how he began his entrepreneurial journey when it was just him, to how with Codetrain he has been able to assist in the economic development within Africa. So Black to Business is bringing you international views this week. So let's get into it. So Richard, thank you so much for joining the Black to Business podcast today. I'm so excited.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited too.
Of course. So for the people who don't yet know you, if you could just share a little bit about yourself, your background, and what is it that you do in your business and why?
So I am a social entrepreneur who, focuses on solving problems that, emerging countries in Africa face. So my background is in software and entrepreneurship. And I basically solve, problems that faces like Africa's youth, especially in terms of skills training and offering them, opportunities for employment.
Definitely. So you have Codetrain. If you could talk a little bit about what Codetrain is and why it started.
Yeah, so Codetrain is a tech talent accelerator that actually trains, software developers, mobile and web developers, so that they can help, build Africa's, digital ecosystem. So what we do is we pick up university students or university graduates and high school students, and we train them with skills in, how to build web applications or mobile applications. And we match them to job opportunities, or we help them if they want to maybe become entrepreneurs themselves.
So when you say connect them to job opportunities, now is this job opportunities in Africa or is it like international?
It's international. We have, there is a lot of jobs that are, international, and the fact that it's much cheaper. Labor is much cheaper here. It makes it more lucrative, for people to hire talents from Africa, and also currently there is a digital boom in Africa. Like smartphone penetration is very high. Everything is becoming e-commerce. In all African countries, people are now starting to do business online. All the banks have mobile applications. Africa is the leader of mobile payments in the world. Technology is actually taking over the continent, and there is only one missing piece. As technology grows, and technology funnels the growth of businesses in Africa, and we don't really have a very strong supply of talent to actually manage this infrastructure and actually support the ecosystem to grow. So that is why I started Codetrain to, provide like practical training to, the youth here so that they can support this ecosystem as well as also get job opportunities from outside the continent as well.
So, as I've known you for quite some time, and one of the things is you have always been, adamant about solving problems in Africa. So if you could just share a little bit about your background and how you got into entrepreneurship to where you are today.
Okay, so I actually studied mathematics in the university in Ghana. And after that, I took a 2-year program where I was trained in software development. And also I got trained alongside, business and entrepreneurship. It's kind of like, see it like an MBA where you're actually doing, learning how to build apps as well. So after the program, you get the opportunity to pitch to investors to start a company. So that is where my entrepreneurial journey started. I started my first company in the program, and then I got the opportunity to go to Startup Chile with a new project. Startup Chile is the third biggest tech software accelerator in the world. The Chilean government supports it with grants. They select the best 100, new entrepreneurs in the world, and then they invite them to Santiago to, work on their projects for 6 months. So I got the grant and went to Santiago. And the main project was about, I built an online system where, talent in Africa can easily find jobs online, jobs from all around the world. That was one of my projects. So then I learned that the continent needs more, skilled people rather than the jobs, because the jobs are available. But the bigger problem is about, the fact that the continent can only grow when they have skilled, labor, or when you train them to, to get skills, So then I decided to go into education rather, as, solving the first phase of solving the problem. After a few years into Codetrain, and we'll probably bring back, the side where we are providing them with, both training and, supplying them with jobs actually. But currently we train them and we assist them to get employment opportunities. So this is how my journey started as an entrepreneur.
Yes. So if you could talk about the beginning of the process, when it was, the first steps to starting, and also what was the process of getting those first few students?
Okay. So in my experience as an entrepreneur, I kind of concentrate more about solving the problem first, to learn about, the best approach to solving the problem first. And then if I find any business potential, I try to make it a business. So when I started out, we selected about 20 students from some of the top universities in Ghana, and we provided them with, a free, 2-month training, just to see whether this, the training is going to actually, be beneficial to them. 2 months into the program, a lot of them started building, apps. They started building like products. Some of them started working on clients' projects, and then they started inviting their friends over. So at that point, I knew that, wow, this could be, this is something that can be sustainable. It could be, turned into a sustainable business at the same time, providing some social good. So then in July last year, I launched it as, a boot camp, where, we train anybody interested can, join a program at a fee. And so that is how we started. Even in the beginning, it wasn't something that was very popular. When it comes to education, when it comes to schools, people want to see success stories. They want to, they want prestige. And it's something that we have just started out. So we couldn't offer that. So our growth was kind of very, very slow until we started creating success stories, students completing, students finding opportunities. And now people are kind of very confident about us. We've made waves across the country, and I mean we are still in the early stages, like I must say, but we keep growing every day. So the process of starting out first was to validate the idea, to see whether the idea is something that, and the approach is something that is going to work. And then the second step is finding out whether the whole idea is something that can, you can make a business out of it. Is someone willing to pay money for your service? If the answer is yes, and then you can say you have a business. So now you then concentrate on how to grow this business, because now we have one person who is willing to pay. Now, how do you get 1,000 people willing to pay? How do you get 1,000,000 people willing to pay you for your service? So those are the two main processes. That is validating an idea and then making a business out of it. So that is the approach that I took.
And then if you could talk about, like, when did you know that it would work versus, you had businesses in the past, but what did you see was the difference in this one?
Yeah, so it was the market. So the market really, because when you start a new business, it's all about the market. You could start something very good or very, important, but if people don't need it, if people are not willing to pay for it, it's eventually going to, die out. So as soon as I realized that people are willing to pay us, for the education that, we offer, and at the same time, as soon as I realized that there were kind of a lot of people, it's not just one person who was willing to pay us, but there's a huge market of, such people who are, ready. They need our services, and they are really, really excited about, offering us money in return for the training. Then I realized, yeah, this is a business. This is something that could become very huge. And at the same time solve like a huge social problem of unemployment and lack of skills on the African continent.
Do you think that there's like something about like educational businesses that are very popular right now or that are so much needed? Like to have an educational platform that teaches people, because I think that's a very big market. Do you think that that's the direction, is why there's a success in what you're doing, because of there's an open market for education and to be taught?
Okay, so that actually depends on the various markets that you are targeting, right? So, globally, there is a huge demand for, education. So there are so many online platforms like Coursera, even YouTube, so many online platforms where you can, take a few courses. So it's very, very lucrative. But in the market that I am in, which is like in Ghana or in West Africa, the problem is more about providing some sort of a classroom education, or an offline education first. Do it for a while, get a very, very good reputation, and then perhaps if it happens that we are growing at a very fast rate, then we can convert it into maybe an online platform, just as a way of scaling the experience, without having to set up so many locations across the continent. And so yeah, the main direction in education right now is, online platforms that makes, the transfer of knowledge possible. And so that is a direction that we are looking at, going But for now, the problem here is more about access to education, and it's not internet speeds are not as high as maybe in the US or in other places, and people the culture here demands a face-to-face interaction and training. But eventually, maybe in 5 years, in 10 years time, yeah, we should be a fully fledged online course, or maybe a mixture of both online and offline.
And so, what does your team look like, and what was that process like for you to build your team?
Oh yeah, so this one is kind of interesting. So I when I started, I started alone, and my first five students, three of them are kind of are working as teaching fellows with me. So I actually trained the teachers that are currently working about 2 years ago when they came on as interns. And also one of them also came on as just a regular student a year ago, and he's working with me as a teaching fellow. I also have a lady, who does most of our admissions and marketing. So she's actually also a graduate of the school as well, of Codetrain. So my main strategy is nobody works at Codetrain without taking our courses. So it makes so actually they understand what it takes to actually be a student, and they can actually communicate the value proposition well. And it's kind of a common ground on which we kind of like understand each other. If you've done the course before, you'd understand what it takes. So that is the main process that I was able um, to get my team. And one of the reasons too is because of in a startup, you need a lot more than just putting a group of people together to work on something. You would need people who are dedicated, who actually want to build something or be part of something bigger than themselves. You need people who are loyal. You need people who are willing to do all the hard work, because in the beginning it's not kind of like exciting, or it's not something it's not something that you are going to they are going to get a lot of rewards like being paid or something. So in the beginning, it's better to get people who are really passionate in the vision, and they believe in the vision, and they are willing to work for the vision. So that is what I looked at, and the team is centers around that caliber of people with such values. And I believe that is what any startup needs to be successful. To get people who are smart and people who are driven, people who believe in the vision, and they are willing to work and sacrifice for to make the vision attainable. So that is the strategy in building the team. We are currently seven in the team now.
So, of course, I'm going to ask more questions about how it was being solo, because you must have patience to have been solo, and then training these students into now they're working with you. So, how was that for you, internally to deal with, okay, I have these goals, and then sticking with that plan? Like, how did you deal with that? Because I can say I've gotten impatient sometimes when I was by myself. So I'm sure others have as well.
Yeah. So to be honest with you, it's a very long and painful process. To do that, it's not building a business is not a fun thing to do. It's not. It's pure business. And it's a very sometimes can be very long, painful, and depressing. Um, I the first few students that I trained them for free, and the idea was that the goal was two things. The first thing is to validate that the training that they receive is high quality and it's world class. So that
Right.
to use them as role models. And secondly, to also be able to offer them enough value for them to see the potential in in Codetrain, so that they can also offer to come on board to to help, right? So yeah, and of course I lost a few people. One of my best students, yeah, I lost him because he wanted to go and start his own company, and he eventually pulled, I think, two other people away to go and start a startup.
Wow.
It's and I mean, but I had to give them my blessing, so it could be sometimes, very hard, depressing, and because it's all about finding the right people, so eventually, and one way I was able to cope with that is I have a few friends who are also software developers. So sometimes I would ask them, hey, can you do maybe 2 or 3 hours, this week, to help co-train as just as a way of giving back, to teaching people.
Right.
So that was how I was able to get through that.
And then also, like, what are some of the barriers that you think that you face in addition to that, I guess, to the next phase of your business now that you're facing and you feel like, they'll soon, if this happens, it'll be done?
Yeah, so some of the barriers are, the main barrier is marketing. There is here that it's a huge market. Like every year you have over 100,000 people graduate from colleges, and they don't really have any practical skills or whatsoever to find jobs, and there are limited job opportunities as well here. At the same, and even when you include high school graduates, then you are talking about maybe hundreds of thousands of young people who are looking for opportunities to improve their skills, so that they can at least get opportunities or start their own businesses. So the main challenge here is marketing to mass marketing to this huge market, to let them know about our services and our training, so that at least we can grow very, very fast. So it's something that once we've gotten to a point where we need to grow, and that is the main hurdle. Once we are able to improve our marketing efforts, it's the road to success is going to be very, very clear. And this is something that sometimes demands. Currently we are using so many innovative ways, like we are doing boot camps in schools to give maybe a few hours of free teaching as a way of bringing people to our school and making people aware of Codetrain. We organize programs like hackathons and so many events, and we are very active on social media as well. But to market to that actually gets to just a few number of people who are super excited, like early adopters, right? Now we need to move to the mainstream, and that takes a lot of that will take some funding and some strategic partnerships to be able to do that. It's a problem that can just be fixed with raising enough money to be able to market to this mass market. One other thing too is partnerships with already established universities. To kind of like complement our teaching, and to be able to support us in maybe providing teachers or providing us with learning materials or anything anything that will be helpful. And then I think finally, one other thing that will be helpful, one other hurdle to achieve actually is kind of, we would need to get a lot of our graduates into opportunities, into jobs, and mainly job opportunities, so that we have, a very high um, rate of, rates of students who get job opportunities after their training. And it's something that we are working on, establishing relationships with industry. We already have a lot of companies who have even signed up to employ our graduates before they even complete the training, because of the confidence that they have in Codetrain. But I mean, as we train more students, we would need to get a lot more into, working with startups and giving them internships. And it's something that is going to create a very good PR or a very good marketing tool for us, because now everybody will know that, hey, this is a school which, is actually working. So there will be more, it's going to be easier for them to join or recommend to other people.
Amazing. I'm excited. So, I know you mentioned that, now to be in Ghana, it's a face-to-face, or the continent is more so face-to-face interaction, versus now in the US, of course, we're dealing with tech. And then you have this platform that basically teaches tech. So what do you feel like is the future of, tech in Africa?
Yeah, so I mean, the future of tech in Africa is, I mean, see tech in Africa as like the US in the early 90s or in the 80s. You know, so we are basically employing tech here to solve problems. We've not gotten to the point where we need Snapchats. We need to create a new Snapchat or a new Facebook, or you know, apps, games, and time wasters so much, because there is a much higher need for solutions that actually solve real problems here, like banking applications, like online school registration systems, things that have to do with the government. When you want to register a company, online registration companies, sending money to someone. There's already mobile money here, and innovating on it to solve so many problems as well. For instance, just seeing a dress on Facebook, and then using mobile money to just purchase the dress, and it's delivered to your house. We don't.
Right.
Yeah. So we are at this point where we are just at the beginning, where we have so many processes that are kind of offline, and now we would need to employ the current technologies to scale up these processes, or to make sure all these processes come online, or you use technology to fix them. So that is the point where we are at now. So it's a really, really critical point.
So much forward thinking, I think. So it's good that you're on that. And with that being said, what is the future of Codetrain, Richard?
Yeah, so we are looking at being, currently by the end of this year, we'll be the biggest code school in Ghana, and we are probably aiming at being the biggest in Africa in the next 2 years. And the biggest milestone for me is to train, people that solve problems, people that have like the mindset of problem solving, so that they can be able to actually, contribute their skills to create wealth and jobs on the African continent. And also, I'm also looking at going to hardware training, because we are currently training people to build software and applications. But as as people use software, or as we use technology, there's already a high demand for gadgets. Most people in Accra, I live in Accra, the capital city of Ghana, and most people here have 2 or 3 smartphones. I'm not talking about like techies. I'm talking about ordinary people. Like my dad has two phones, and he has 2 WhatsApps on each phones, And the other day, he was telling my little brother to, to give him another, smartphone. So this is like a 60-year-old man. So we,
Right.
so it's tech is something which is really 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 taking over in Africa, and so it's both hardware and software. So I'm looking at succeeding highly in software to be the number one company to train Africa's tech talent needs. And then we go into hardware as well to train people who are going to fix computers, who are going to fix phones, or assemble phones, and match hardware and software with the main aim of creating enough jobs here, creating enough, reducing poverty here and creating wealth here. So that is the long-term goal of Codetrain.
You are definitely on it. We're glad that, you decided to grace the Black to Business audience with your presence, because Richard is going to be like the richest man in Africa. So that's amazing, though, the vision. And of course, today has been amazing. You have to tell people how can they, support what you're doing and continue to find you and support Codetrain as well.
Okay, so I think I forgot to mention this exciting point. We have one student from the US. She's in New York. She's Ghanaian, but she's based in New York. She has her own software company, and she wanted to learn how to code. So she's going to complete the first level of Codetrain. She's now a web developer now, but she did our virtual training. We are experimenting with virtual training. And we use Slack mainly for that, and it's kind of very very efficient. So she is about to just complete the first course, and I mean she can now build her own websites and web applications as well. So anybody interested in becoming a web developer or learn how to code can join our program. Join our virtual program. And we actually need help a lot. Like you heard my story. I started all this, with no resources, but little by little we've been able to grow very fast. Currently, we are looking for people who want to donate computers, laptops, or even cash or funding, any kind of donations to help us, realize this dream. Sometimes we get students who start, and maybe in the middle of the program, their computers break, and having some, maybe any used laptops or any gadgets can really help them. We can lend such gadgets to them to use while they find like solutions to fixing their gadgets when they break, or maybe when they don't have computers or a laptop and they still want to do the program, we can lend these gadgets to them. And also, like I mentioned earlier on, we are looking to raising funding to be able to grow this business as well. So anybody who is interested in offering, talking partnership or funding could also reach out to me. So that we can, see how best we can make this vision come, to fruition.
Right. And where is it that they can reach out? And also, I know you mentioned that you all have internship programs and, job opportunities that you're doing international. So because Black to Business is a business platform, so I'm sure people listening are business owners and they may be interested in taking part in supporting those ways. So how can they do that? What's the process?
Yeah, so they can simply send us an email at codetraingh at gmail.com. Code CODETRAINGH at gmail.com, or they can just go to codetrain.com and just go to our contact us page. Our email is there. They can also contact us through our Facebook page, which is Codetrain as well. And we are going to just reply them and schedule a call with them to chat.
Well, Richard, it has been amazing. And before we wrap up, I definitely want to ask, in all that you've done and all of your success, what advice would you give your 23-year-old self? It always gets real.
Yeah, my 23-year-old self, I would tell him to, not be scared of making mistakes. Make as many mistakes as he can, but make sure he learns from those mistakes.
Get it. And that's good. So, and what's your social media platforms? What are your social media handles?
Yeah, so on Facebook is Codetrain GH, facebook.com/Codetrain GH. On Instagram is Codetrain GH. On Twitter, it's Codetrain GH as well.
So, Richard, we thank you so much for joining the Back to Business podcast, and I can't wait to see what you have in store for the future.
Yeah, thanks a lot too. I mean, it's really, really fun talking to you on this platform. Hope you invite me again.
Of course, always. So until next time, guys.